You couldn't risk being somebody who takes a pistol within a few feet of Charlie. It was obviously something that was planned, and obviously something that was, if not literally professional, done by somebody who was skilled. Yes, this is the new normal, and I have friends who do have that sort of, or are getting that sort of security precisely because of the threat, particularly if you are identified with the MAGA right.
Hi, I'm Maddie, Hale, and welcome to the Trump Report. Today I've got Henry Olsen on the show. He's a senior fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Centre. And just a reminder that you can watch us every day, Monday through Friday, on Times Radio's YouTube page, or you can stream us as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Henry, thank you so much for joining the Trump Report today.
Well, thank you for having me.
We have to start on a pretty somber note, Henry. Of course, what we've seen in the last day is that 31-year-old conservative activist Charlie Kirk, he was shot and killed while speaking at an event for his America Comeback tour at the Utah Valley University on Wednesday. While we aren't sure of the motive behind the shooting, and we're not sure of the suspect, who, as you and I speak, is still on the run, we know that Charlie did die at a nearby hospital. Henry, what was your reaction to seeing this yesterday, especially as the video of the shooting has been plastered all over the internet?
Yeah, it's just an incredibly sad day for the United States, is that Charlie was a very influential figure, particularly for young conservatives. He was somebody who was close to the president and the vice president. Vice President Vance wrote a very moving personal tribute to Charlie on his X feed this morning, American time. And in fact, he's canceling going to New York City for our 9/11 memorial. Of course, today is the anniversary of the attack on the Twin Towers in 2001, to spend time with Mrs. Kirk and their children. They were so close. Look, the United States is going through a very dark period. It's a dark period because increasingly politics is not only angry, which politics always is, bitter, which politics can be, but a zero sum, that too many people on both sides think that the other side is illegitimate and can never seize power. And you can't have a republic when too many people believe that. And when you get that sort of rhetoric, diseased minds move to violence. We had that happen in the Civil War. We had that happen during the Civil Rights era, and now it's happening again. I wish I could say that it ends with Charlie's death, but it doesn't.
Henry, yeah, on that note, it feels like this is the new normal for the United States, that conflicting ideas of politics or identity politics leaves you in a position that you're targeted if you have a larger following, or if you are in the public eye, or if you are an elected official, or even running to be an elected official, which we saw Donald Trump before he was elected for the second time. He was obviously shot at in Butler, but was thankfully okay. But Charlie had bodyguards with him. He had private security with him, which to me was interesting. I didn't know that he even felt that he had to, which goes to show that, yes, he did have to, and anyone on his level does have to, because this is the climate of America right now. So political violence, Henry, are you finding it that is currently just embedded into American society right now, whoever you are?
Yeah, well, that's one of the problems, is that particularly on the right, you get death threats. You get, and of course, some of them are just cranks. Some of them you have to take more seriously. But Charlie didn't want to become somebody who ran from his calling. He's somebody who wanted to continue to be exposed to large numbers of people. And the fact that it appears that the shooter was a sniper from hundreds of yards away shows that the security had some effect. You couldn't risk being somebody who takes a pistol within a few feet of Charlie. It was obviously something that was planned, and obviously something that was, if not literally professional, done by somebody who was skilled. Yes, this is the new normal, and I have friends who do have that sort of, or are getting that sort of security precisely because of the threat, particularly if you are identified with the MAGA right.
I did. I listened to a former FBI agent. I think he was on Fox News. He was talking similar to what you were saying, that this is very much planned. That the position of the shooter was in such a interesting position, in the fact that they could get away within 3 to 5 minutes, get in a car and be on the highway and be close to an airport, which is why the shooter is still at large, although he does believe that this shooter will be probably found within the day. But you mentioned it is MAGA, Henry. So are you finding that this is more... We've seen Democrats targeted in the past. Of course, we've seen Gabby Gifford. She was shot in 2011, I think it was. But are you finding it's more targeted towards Republicans and MAGA in the last few years?
Well, absolutely. Is that... Look, in the last year or two alone, we've had now Charlie Kirk assassinated. The president was shot at, but don't forget that there was somebody found with a gun lying in the bushes as he was golfing outside of Florida. So there were at least 2 attempts on President Trump's life. We've had a couple of... one murder of Minnesota State Representative and her husband, and a shooting of another one, and a bizarre and tragic case this summer. We had the attempted assassination of Josh Shapiro when his governor's mansion was torched. But we've also had, in 2017, a guy showed up at the congressional baseball game practice for the Republicans and had automatic weapons. If a member of the leadership had not been there, there would have been no security, and you would have had 10 to 20 Republican congressmen murdered in 2017. That's never happened on the Democratic side. That you don't have that. You had somebody who was trying to get into Brett Kavanaugh's house, who was arrested trying to kill Kavanaugh and his family. So yes, you have elements and examples on both sides of the aisle, but in the recent years, it has tilted more towards, if you're on the hard right, or you're perceived as being on the Trumpist right, you're more likely to be targeted than you are if you are on the left.
Henry, I find it a bit ironic that, as you say, that it's more left-leaning people, it's more people that have been calling for gun control changes to the Constitution when it comes to guns, that have been attacking in a political, violent way. Of course, I don't want to speculate just yet on Charlie Kirk's murder. We don't know the motive, so I'm not going to jump to conclusions on that just yet until we know more. But what do you think this gun violence, Charlie Kirk's murder, will do when it comes to the impact of gun culture, and also an impact on public spaces? Because we've been frightened for a number of years about holding these public events at arenas. Of course, we've had the Manchester attack. We've had numerous things that have happened. Of course, you mentioned Donald Trump's assassination attempt, and then when he was golfing as well. So how does this impact gun culture in the United States, do you think? And how does it impact holding public events?
I don't think it's going to impact gun culture at all. It's too deeply embedded. We have over 500 million guns. We have more guns than we have people in the United States. And let's not forget that this isn't some sort of automatic weapon. As near as we can ascertain at this time, this was a simple rifle with a scope. In other words, even countries like Canada, which permit what they call long guns, would have a gun like this that could be privately owned. The problem here was not the presence of a gun. The problem here was the problem of political violence more generally, and the fact that you don't have the sort of Secret Service ultra protection around public figures like Charlie Kirk as you do around public officials like the president. This is somebody who apparently was shooting from an elevated position hundreds of yards away. I doubt that you had the sort of locking down of buildings that you have with an appearance by somebody like the President of the United States. So I do think it's going to affect the holding of large public events. You'll probably, if you are concerned with this, you probably want to have more of them indoors than outdoors. That he chose an outdoor venue. Perhaps he should have in retrospect, chosen to rent out the stadium, where obviously access can be controlled. There was apparently no magnometers or security for people to get into the event, so there was no policing of whether guns could come close to him. Again, 200 yards away from a building, you'd have to have some pretty extensive security to access that. But doing indoor events rather than outdoor events may be the safer thing for people who are subject to death threats for the foreseeable future.